Hey, how's it going? This is Melinda and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you the worst sounding records in my vinyl collection. And this video kind of goes hand in hand with the video I made last week where I was talking about records with bad reputations. And my husband pointed out to me that while I was pointing out the records with bad reputations, I was defending every single one of them. I never really showed a record that has a bad reputation that lives up to it. So in my collection, I do have some bad sounding records, and I'm going to show you which ones they are. So if you're not a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe, hit the like button and the notification bell. Everything you do helps my channel to grow. Let's get started with a wonderful record by a band I really love, Kiss, Hotter Than Hell. If you have this record, you have an original, you know that the production value on this is terrible. This was a terrible sounding record from the get-go. Has some great songs on it. I like the rawness of it to some degree. Songs like Watching You and Coming Home and Parasite are killer songs by Kiss. I love them. But Casablanca had no money when they were making this album. Kiss was the first band they had signed to the Casablanca label. Their first album hadn't really done much. They were cash poor, and the production quality of this sounds like it. Now, of course, they came out with Kiss Alive, and that record skyrocketed, and then Casablanca went on to having wonderful hits, and they went on to be a disco label with Donna Summer and the Village People, and Kiss continued to stay on there for a long time, and they ended up being very successful. But this Hotter Than Hell record doesn't sound very good. I would love to know if you have the 2014 reissue, if it sounds better than the original. The original is a great one. It's one I had to have in my collection. But sound quality wise, it just lacks. You know, it's just a very flat, cheap sounding. This next record is one that is by Mobile Fidelity, and I put them as the gold standard for sound quality. I love Mobile Fidelity. This record's not a bad sounding record, but for a Mobile Fidelity record, you know, they were putting out great stuff by The Cars. They've been putting great stuff out by Bob Dylan. I mean, they've just been amazing. Miles Davis, killer stuff. This record is a little boring compared to all that. Talking about Train, Drops of Jupiter. Now, I would say if you're looking for this particular album, this is the way to go. This is a great record on so-so sounding quality vinyl. I would say this is probably as good as it gets. But having said that, it just does not come alive the way the Cars records reissues do. I'm very disappointed. And maybe there's a digital sourcing issue here that just doesn't allow this record to sound as good. But for Mobile Fidelity, that's one of my least favorite Mobile Fidelity records that I've purchased. Here is a record that I expected nothing but top quality. We're talking the Beatles, probably the most popular band ever, and yet this record really lacks. This is a US first pressing of Let It Be. And it is so flat, it's lifeless. There is just nothing that Phil Spector could do to bring this one alive for some reason. And I'm very disappointed in it, to a point where I really thought I had the counterfeit version of it. I was totally sold thinking I bought a counterfeit. But from everything I've been able to check on, I have a true first pressing of Let It Be. It sounds so flat. I'm so glad we have other different versions of this album to choose from. Of course, a UK version is probably going to sound amazing. I think Japanese versions of this album sound better than this one. The Mobile Fidelity version that came out in the 80s sounds better. And of course, the new Giles Martin remix is fantastic. So, you know, you don't have to look for an original US pressing of Let It Be, thank goodness, because my particular copy of it sounds really bad. This next one was a record store day release. It is sentimental to my heart. I love this record and I love the energy I love the feel, I love the set list, but the sound quality, forget about it. It's not that good. I'm talking about Cheap Trick. This is Are You Ready Live, and this is a New Year's Eve concert from 1979. So it's so sentimental to me because I remember vividly the night when 1979 became 1980, and suddenly we went out of the 70s into the 80s. This is a killer record with a terrific set list. Gonna Raise Hell is one of my favorites. Heaven Tonight, Top of the World, Hello There. I just love this record. It's so good. Voices is on here. Every single Cheap Trick hit from that point is on here. And this is my favorite era of Cheap Trick. It just sounds really, really bad. It caused me to question Record Store Day live releases because also that same year I had purchased a Sebastian Bach live album where after I bought the pressing, I saw Sebastian Bach in an interview saying the only source he could think of that they used was a VHS tape. Totally believable too. It was a terrible sounding record. It is long gone from my collection, but the Cheap Trick record, because of the sentimental value, lives on, but it's just not very good. Record Store Day has come a long way. They have restored my faith in their live albums now. So, I'm not putting Record Store Day down, but I hope that this kind of release is in the past, and from now on they'd stick with soundboard quality sounding records. This next one is fantastic. One of my favorite albums by one of my favorite artists. Such a great record. I'm talking about Bob Dylan's Desire. This is an original on Columbia, and compared to everything else I have by Bob Dylan, and I will admit I'm totally spoiled. I have the mobile fidelity versions of Freewheelin' Bob Dylan and John Wesley Harding, and I have so many great sounding ones from that box set, the mono box set, that I know how great Bob Dylan can sound. This one does not rise to that at all. It is very flat sounding compared to all of the other versions of the Bob Dylan records I own. And yet this is such a fantastic record that I went on and bought another version of it. And from what I can tell on the Dead Wax, this is a music on vinyl version, at least the metal work of it. It has MOV in the Dead Wax. And yet I just think compared to what I have when it comes to Freewheelin' Bob Dylan and Bringing It All Back Home and Highway 61 Revisited, this one just lacks the sound quality, and it really shouldn't. We've got fantastic violin playing, Hurricane by Bob Dylan, where he is just on top of his game with lyrics and violin playing sounding great. His harmonica's fantastic. Another Cup of Coffee. We've got Emmylou Harris singing with him on so many of the tracks on this record. This is stupendous, and it deserves a better sounding version of it. And I have a feeling Mobile Fidelity has the best sounding version of this album. Such a great one. And I have 2 copies of it that really lack. So I probably need to invest in a Mobile Fidelity version of that album because it's so fantastic. It's one of my favorites. Here's another record that I think sounds bad, and I don't mean to pick on Kiss. But Kiss World, this is a compilation of fantastic Kiss records. And this goes from the very early songs like Hard Luck Woman and Shout It Out Loud to Hell or Hallelujah and Modern Day Delilah, Psycho Circus. Shandy is on here, a fantastic song from the Unmasked album. The set list, the track list on this is killer. Such a great record. And yet the sound quality on my version of it sounds terrible. I'll show you the vinyl. And if you have a black vinyl version of it that you think sounds great, let me know. I've never been able to tell a difference between sound quality wise, whether these the color vinyl or the black vinyl versions are better. But man, this is beautiful, but it sounds terrible. So let me know if you have this record and if you think the black vinyl version sounds better. I know Walmart had like a red vinyl version. For some reason, this yellow one is terrible. It's just so flat and there's just no dynamics. Vocals are just, I mean, it's just, everything's just a big old flat line. It just doesn't sound good at all. Now this next one I'm going to show, I think everybody should probably realize you are not buying these for the sound quality. And I'm talking about this wonderful box set of Irving Berlin. He made some great music, but you're not going to really pay attention to it on box sets like this. You know, there's Reader's Digest versions. I personally love collecting American Top 40 with Casey Kasem or Dick Clark National Music Survey box sets. I buy them for the nostalgic, just the memories of listening to them on the radio. I don't buy them for the music sound quality, and this is no different. This is very flat sounding. A lot of those boxes are very cheap, and you can find some great sounding records that are very inexpensive by doing that. But this is a very disappointing box set. And I would say anytime you buy those Reader's Digest box sets, American Top 40, anything like that, you're buying it for music alone. You're not buying it for sound quality. This is a record that I love. It's one of my favorites from the 80s. It's truly a great record, but my original of it has a huge warp. So I saw this and I thought, no brainer, I'm gonna buy it. It's gonna be fantastic. I was so excited, and wow, was this a letdown for me. This is Quiet Riot's Metal Health, and I bought the music on vinyl. It's on transparent vinyl, limited edition to 2,000 copies, 35th anniversary. I mean, you know, I love music on vinyl, and I usually get great sounding records, but this one was a huge disappointment. It's so muddy that even though I have this one, I've gone back to listening to my warped version of it. I mean, I don't know what to say. It just does not come alive at all. I don't know what the problem is. I know other people who have this music on vinyl version and they like it. And it's people I respect and trust their ears. So for some reason, maybe I just have a bad pressing of it. That happens sometimes. Sometimes you can just get a dud. And maybe that's what happened with me on this one. But anyway, such a huge disappointment for me. This next record was such a disappointment because I bought it because I love the album. And I think about all the records at this record store I left behind to buy this record. That's what hurts the most, because I had some great records in my hand, but I had to make some decisions, and this one stayed and some other great records were put back on the shelf. I wish I hadn't done that. This is Journey, Frontiers, a great record. Love it. Love Separate Ways, Faithfully, Send My Love, Rubicon. This is a classic Journey album. I love this record so much, and yet I'm not saying this half-speed mastered version by CBS sounds bad. It just doesn't sound any different than an original you can get for a lot less money. So the disappointment was I should have stuck with the original because I was just as well off, and bought some of the records that I put back, because I truly regret some of the records I put back in order to have this one. So Journey, the half-speed mastered version of Frontiers, just stick with an original. It sounds good enough and you're not going to be disappointed. There just really isn't a better version. At least this particular copy, you're not improving the sound quality at all. This record is really wonderful. The Killers, Day and Age. Now, this was a band that was my daughter's very favorite band. I listened to a lot of The Killers while she was a teenager, and while she was in high school, she loved them. This is her very favorite album by them, Day and Age. It's great music on here. She loved the song Human. Spaceman's a really great song. Dustland Fairy Tale is her favorite song of all time. Again, I couldn't resist buying this very special packaging of this album. It is a first time on double LP, 180 gram, 45 RPM, 10th anniversary edition of this record. So I bought it because I thought it was going to sound really amazing. And it's one of those deals where when I bought it, I was really disappointed with it. But now that I've upgraded all of my turntable and all of my stereo equipment, it sounds a lot better. It is greatly improved by having updated and good stereo system. It really does help it a lot. Having said that, I wish it sounded a little bit better. You know, when you take a record and you make it a 45 RPM, you have high hopes. Falls a little short on that, but not horrible. This is just a really cool sentimental record for me. Brings back a lot of memories. My daughter went through cancer when we were listening to this record a lot. She had to have a major operation when she was only 13 years old. It was a tough diagnosis. It was very hard on our family. Thankfully, we got through it, and she's doing great. She's so well, and she's so strong. So I'm just, you know, the sentimental journey this album brings me through, all the highs and the lows, is unbelievable. But the sound quality, I just wish it was a little better. Be nice if it sounded a little bit better. This record is one that was bought, I bought it from Urban Outfitters. It's a cool record. I have great memories of seeing it was my first concert we ever took our daughter to, seeing Kelly Clarkson. There's a wonderful song on here called Beautiful Disaster. It was a fast-paced record or song from her other album. She slowed it down, jumped on a piano. She was barefoot, just sang it in a beautiful piano arrangement. It just doesn't capture how great that moment was at the concert on vinyl. And along with all of the other songs that are on here, Breakaway, Since You've Been Gone, Behind These Hazel Eyes, Because of You, Where Is Your Heart? I mean, this is just a jam-packed, probably the best album Kelly Clarkson ever made. It's on gold vinyl. And I would blame Urban Outfitters for this particular release for why it sounds so bad. But I have some Britney Spears records that were from Urban Outfitters that actually sound pretty good. So it's hard to really put down Urban Outfitters or colored vinyl. It's just a bad sounding pressing of that record. And that record deserves better than that. Here is the worst record that I own. This is the worst sounding pressing of any record I have in my collection. Drum roll, please. Not because I'm applauding it, because it sounds so bad. They win. Worst sound quality record I own. The Jonas Brothers, Lines, Vines, and Trying Times. There was a cool song on here called Paranoid. Much better. It was a diss about Taylor Swift because Joe Jonas at the time was dating Taylor Swift and it all went down really bad. She sang bad about him. He replied really bad about her. All those teenage things that I should not know about, really. But again, this is a beautiful pressing of this record, and I bought it because of the memories I share with my daughter of going to all the Jonas Brothers concerts, getting to meet them in person, and having their autographs. And it represents a wonderful time in my life when my daughter was a teenager and growing up and just being so involved in her life. Unfortunately, sound quality-wise with vinyl, I should have stuck with just streaming it, honestly, because this is so bad. So these are the records in my collection that I think just represent the worst when it comes to sound quality. Let me know if you disagree with one of these records, if you happen to have them in your collection. If you have a suggestion of a pressing of one of these records that you think sounds a lot better, let me know that too. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.